Well, my fellow hockey fans, it all comes down to this. The regular season is over. Yes, again, there's a bonus game. There's a postponed game that's being played Sunday. But it's Seattle and Winnipeg. Those two are done. The regular season's over. And now it's time to focus on those playoffs. It did end up taking the final day to put the final pieces of the puzzle together because not one additional series was set on Thursday. It still needed the final day, but in regards to everything, here's how it went. Here's how it ended up. In the East, Tampa Bay needed a win to lock up third place, or they needed Boston to lose. I think the Boston game ended before Tampa's did. Boston lost to a Maple Leafs team that didn't start Austin Matthews, John Tavares, and Mitch Marner because they had already sold everything. So, Eric Shalgren was in net uh, over Jack Campbell. So, Boston's loss filled in, completed a couple pieces. Tampa, who went on to win themselves over the Islanders. Tampa will now face Toronto in round one. That's going to be an interesting series. I don't think Toronto and Tampa ever face each other in the playoffs. At least I don't think. I can find out. Um, but yeah, it'll be Toronto and Tampa in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and Boston is locked in as the number one wild card, and they will cross over to the Metropolitan bracket and face Carolina, who completed their regular season on Thursday. Um, as speaking of Metropolitan, Pittsburgh needed, I think they needed 1 point to clinch third place. They ended up getting the two. They ended up winning, and Washington ended up losing anyway. So Pittsburgh and the Rangers will face off. Now they have played each other in the playoffs before. Matter of fact, I think the last time they played each other was, I want to say it was 2015 that they faced each other. I think, but that's gonna be an interesting series between those two teams because they are just, well, Rangers are kicking ass, and for Penguins, Crosby himself said this could be their last chance. This could be. Um, and as for Washington, they will cross over into the Atlantic Division and face the President's Trophy winning for the Panthers. That's right, the Panthers locked up the President's Trophy on Thursday when they won, and we failed to get 2 points that night. So, Florida, for the first time in franchise history, which began in 1993, they are the President's Trophy winners. We'll see how that goes for them because President's Trophy is kind of cursed, they say. But yeah, so that's gonna be interesting. So that's the East. That's the East side. The West, the West didn't need much to be decided. Um, the West only needed seeding in the Blues Wild series, and Colorado and Calgary had to know who their opponents were going to be. Um, uh, Before Minnesota's game ended, the Blues got blasted by the Vegas Golden Knights, who we will not see until October. That's right. The Vegas Golden Knights, for the first time in their brief franchise history, will not be in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They were eliminated on Wednesday. They were eliminated on Wednesday when, during their shootout, the Dallas Stars went to overtime, got the 1 point they needed to get in, so that was that. So no Vegas. That game against St. Louis, that is their season, and but they did, and all they did was spoil the Blues' chances of having home ice in that series. Of course, Minnesota went on to win over an Avs team that didn't start McCarr and McKinnon. Um, but the main piece was the wild cards. who were they going to play? And Nashville, well, actually, Nashville entered 1 point behind 1 point behind Dallas. No, I'm wrong. Nashville ended 1 point ahead of Dallas. Um, and they needed one more point to lock up the number one wild card and face Calgary. And that would have been the case even with Dallas's victory. Dallas beat the Ducks to move 1 point ahead. And Nashville, they're up 4-0, and I thought, wow, we're gonna play Dallas. Then now Arizona scored, but yeah, it's 4-1, big deal. Then they scored again, 4-2, and again 4-3. And I'm going, what's going on here? This better not be a repeat of that game against Dallas. And then early in the third period, they tied up. I go, what is this? Are we actually going to play Nashville? And then they take the lead in regulation. But they had about 9 minutes of it. They got 9 minutes to tie this up. Because even if they tied up in regulation, they go to overtime. That's the point they'll get to clinch the first wild card spot. They never got it. Even after they pulled the goalie and got the extra tackler on, they never got it. Nashville led 4-0 and gave up 5 unanswered goals the rest of the way. They scored those 4 goals. They scored those 4 goals within the first 7 minutes of the game. So they went 53 plus. They went about 53 minutes and a few seconds without putting the puck in. But in that time, Arizona put in 5, and as a result of that choke job, Nashville has to play the Avalanche, the top-seeded Avalanche, while Dallas will be off to Canada to face off against the Calgary Flames. So that's that. Of course, elsewhere, how about those Canadiens? They ended their regular season, their kind of disappointing regular season on a great note. Cole Caulfield got his first hat trick in his young career. Carey Price got his first win since Game 4 of the last year's Stanley Cup Final. And the Montreal Canadiens scored 10 goals. Deeks. They scored 10 goals. The third team this year to score 10 goals in a game. The Maple Leafs were the first. The Penguins scored 11. And Montreal put up 10 against Florida. Of course, Bobrovsky wasn't in that. Because they were kind of Florida sat a whole bunch of people because they got the President's Trophy. They figured they're going to rest up for the playoffs. But it was a great moment. 10-2 was the final score. So that's that for the regular season. And again, I'll go over the playoff. Matchups here. Of course, by division, the Atlantic Division, it's Florida facing Washington. They're crossing over. This is the first playoff meeting between these two. And Florida beat them twice in the regular season. And it's going to be an interesting series, especially just because they may be without Ovechkin for a good bit. Ovechkin missed their final few games of regular season, and if they're without him in the playoffs, that's not going to be good. However, Florida has a bad history. They haven't won a playoff series since 1996. It would really be something if the Capitals, without Ovechkin for the most part, somehow knock them out. And of course, the other series in the Atlantic is Toronto and Tampa Bay. Another first time ever. These two teams have never faced each other in the postseason. They played each other 4 times, and it was 2-2. And they were kind of interesting ones. So Tampa Bay won the last game 8-1. So that's not good. Of course, we all know the story about Toronto, and it's amazing. Florida has the longer drop, but Toronto's gets the center of attention. They haven't won a series since 2004. Will this be it? That's the question. They have home ice in this series, so they definitely have a shot. And it's real home ice with people in attendance, not like last year when there were when Canadian games in Canada had no fans because of restrictions. But yeah, so it should be interesting to see how that goes. In the Metro, it's Carolina and Boston. These two teams can't stay away from each other. This is their 3rd playoff meeting in the last 4 years. And overall, it's their 7th. And Boston has owned them. Boston has owned Carolina in the playoffs. Out of 6 previous series, Boston has won 5 of them, including the last 3. yeah, including the last two. One of them was the Eastern Conference Final in 2019. Which was a 4-game sweep. So, but Carolina has the home ice, and Boston's kind of declining. So we should see how that goes. The other series, Rangers and Penguins, they face each other 8 times. Pittsburgh's won 5 out of 7. Um, and I said 2015. I'm on Wikipedia to make sure it was 2016. That was the last time they met. It was round one, and Pittsburgh won that series en route to winning the Stanley Cup. Of course, the Rangers have the home ice advantage. And now on to the Western Conference, the Central Division, the Avs and the Predators. That's going to be a good series. That is. Avs and Predators. These two teams. This is their second playoff meeting between these two teams. The only other time they met was 2018. The roles are kind of reversed. We were the go wild card, and Nashville was on top, and Nashville won that series in 6. It's gonna be interesting, especially with the whole Norris storyline, Makar and Yossi. Those are the two top defensemen up for that trophy. So it's gonna be a hell of a series. The other series in the Central is the Wild and the Blues. This is their third meeting between the two, and both sides have a win. The last meeting was in 17, which the Blues won in 5. Of course, Central Division. That's always beastly. Always fun when these Central Division playoff series. And this was the first series that was submitted, but the seeding was still up in the air. But Minnesota locked up the second seed, so they do have the home ice advantage, as does Colorado in the series against Nashville. In the Pacific, it's Calgary versus Dallas. Dallas will cross over into the Pacific Division bracket. It's not the first time they've done that. This is the third time. This is the third time they've met in the playoffs. Dallas won both the previous times, including that memorable series in the bubble in 2020, where how they go. Calgary had a 2-1 lead, and they had a lead with a few seconds left, but Dallas tied it, won in overtime, and Dallas won the rest of the way en route to their run to the final. And of course, Calgary, as winners of the Pacific Division, they have the home ice advantage. But they have kind of hard luck in the playoffs, so anything's possible. And last but not least is the Pacific Division semifinal between the Oilers and the Kings. Ooh, boy, that's good. This is a throwback. They've met 8 times during those classic 80s and 90s rivalries with the Smythe Division. They've met 8 times. Edmonton's won 5 of the previous 7, including the last meeting 30 years ago in 1992. Edmonton has the home ice. Edmonton has the home ice advantage, so that's gonna be a good series. That's all gonna be good. As for predictions, I'm gonna make them quick. The Atlantic, I'll say I think Florida should get off the schneid finally since '96. Panthers in 6. Leafs in, I'll say 7, because that's going to be a long series. And Leafs in 7. The Metropolitan, Hurricanes in 7. Pittsburgh in 7. No, Hurricanes in 6. Pittsburgh in 7. The Central, Avs in 6. Blues in 7. And the Pacific, I'll say Flames in 5. They should really beat Dallas. Flames in 5. Oilers in 7. So there you have it. It's playoff time. Let's fasten our seatbelts. It's going to be a fun ride. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click the like button. Click subscribe if you want more. The remaining my stories on the teams that clinch playoff spots this final week will be in the description below. So check them out when you can. And I'll be back on YouTube to recap. I'll think about that, but I might do it. I might do it day by day. I think I might do it day by day. I haven't really decided, but I will definitely recap round 1 when it's over. But I might do a day by day recap. So stay tuned and enjoy the playoffs.